So with all of the different ways to grow plants, hydroponic, aquaponic, coco coir, we're team soil. Let's cultivate. So in today's tips and tricks, we want to talk about a topic that is near and dear to our heart, and that is soil. For years now, we have been obsessed with soil, and for good reason. So before we sort of lean into this conversation about soil, I want to zoom out just for a moment here and sort of go big picture in terms of the way that other industries think about soil. And the one that is the most commonly referenced is wine culture, also known as viticulture. But in the wine ecosystem, the notion of terroir, which is a French term that ultimately is referencing the earth, the soil in the area where those wine grapes are grown. The terroir is ultimately a term that references the soil that then imparts that flavor to the grapes. So, grapes that are grown in southern France have a different terroir than grapes that are grown in the Willamette Valley, that are different than grapes that are grown in Australia. The terroir, the soil that those grapes are grown in, become that defining element of the minerals and all of the different qualities that that soil has, that those grapevines pull, that then ends up in that fruit, that then ends up in that bottle of wine. So why do we care about the notion of flavor and what that soil is doing to our crops? Well, because the better the soil, the better that terroir, the better the flavor that we're going to find in that finished product, whether it's a flower or a tomato. The notion of really rich soil is that main driver, and that's why we've been obsessed with soil for so long. So, a couple things that I want to dive into today is just looking at how we think about soil and why soil has been our choice for a growing medium for our cultivation practice here on our farm. First, let me just introduce you to a couple of the guests that I have on the table today. So, for years, we worked with a company that is doing really amazing stuff with soil, and that's Bio365. So Bio365 was founded by an agronomist, a soil biologist named John Gaunt out of Cornell University. And John Gaunt brought science to this soil product that it's really an advanced approach to bagged soil. The beauty of bagged soil, of course, is that it is a very efficient way to bring in small quantities of soil. I think these bags are 1.5 cubic feet, and you can have a turnkey solution ready to go right out of the bag. What's the downside? Cost. The main issue that we deal with at scale here on our farm is cost, and how we're dealing with the margins that we're trying to achieve here at scale when we're dealing with hundreds of yards of soil that we have here on our farm that we are managing over the course of the year and cycling through. Bagged soil just doesn't work. But at our early stage of development, when we were just getting started, bagged soil was a great solution for us. That's when we got to know Bio365. And what our relationship with Bio365 gave us was a foundation of a deeper understanding of the science that we needed to be chasing in our soil. When we did a recent sort of reunion tour with Bio365, we brought in some bioflower. We had it soil tested at Logan Labs, and what you'll see here on the soil reports is just some phenomenal numbers. Bioflower, which is the solution for that flower cycle, has levels of potassium in it that are just off the charts. The texture of this soil, which I want to sort of show you here, is unbelievably light and just kind of a perfect blend of perlite, coir, and other organic materials. They have done a brilliant job at putting together a great blend that is incredibly nutrient dense and ready to go right out of the bag. We ran multiple side-by-side experiments where we literally put plants in flower directly in bioflower and did not add anything except for water, and the plants absolutely crushed. So it's a phenomenal soil. It is an expensive product compared to bulk soil, but it is a phenomenal solution. So the bulk soil that we've been working with, our local vendor, which is Rexius, is also a beautiful blend that we have been working on for a long time. And one of the things that we have done with our soil that was an insight that we developed through the Bio 365 partnership is one of the big components of the bioflower that is or all of the Bio 365 products, the bioflower is no exception, is that they include biochar. And biochar is one of these beautiful magical inputs that is essentially charred wood. It is burnt organic matter that becomes much more porous through that process. And it essentially the tagline that they used when they were describing it to us early days when we were sort of getting our heads wrapped around the importance of biochar is that biochar is like these little condominiums for the bacteria and the microbes. It becomes a place where all of those microbes and that bacteria can be housed and can ultimately multiply. So biochar does a lot of different things in your soil, but it's an important input. And what we've been adding to our soil over years of working on it is more biochar. So our local vendor, Rexius, brings us 15 to 20 yard dumps of soil that is a really nice blend of organic inputs, feather meal, bone meal, blood meal, all the good stuff that's going to provide that fertility. And then we continue to work it over time as we cycle it through the different cycles of veg and flower that we run it through. So all of the different inputs that we've been working on in our soil, a lot of our insights and a lot of our strategies actually were born out of our relationship with Bio 365. So if you're looking for a very simple, turnkey, pre-bagged solution because you don't have much space to bring bulk soil to your location where you're cultivating, a product like Bio 365 would be a phenomenal option for you. If you do have room to have bulk soil dropped, then our vote is always going to be, from a cost perspective, to bring in bulk soil from a local vendor who's reputable, who you can then send that soil off to get soil tested so you know exactly what the composition of that soil is. And you then work that soil over time, continuing to add organic matter, whether it's peat or biochar, or some of the dry amendments that we like to add to our pile, which is going to be lime to continue to stoke that calcium. We will add bone meal. We'll go ahead and bring other dry amendments that we can then mix into that soil. Once it comes out of a 9-week flower cycle, it goes back into the pile, it gets re-amended, and then it gets cycled through again. So a couple things to really think about here when you're thinking about what material you want to use for your cultivation. Soil is not necessarily the easiest, but it is the place that we think of for flavor. So all of the different inputs that we continue to look for in our soil reports are reflected in that finished product, where that flavor resides. In general, a lot of what we see out there in commercial cultivation these days is hydroponic, and the only inputs that those plants are getting is through that liquid fertigation that those plants are receiving in that rock wool. And again, you can grow great tomatoes, great product in rock wool. There's no doubt about it. But our vote for flavor and for that terroir, that magic that we believe ultimately resides in that soil, is where we look to for that basis of flavor and plant health. It's not that different than the way that we think about the optimal light spectrum for plants. We know that the sun is ultimately that optimal light spectrum, but when you're cultivating indoors, you look for an LED full spectrum solution that gets as close to that full sun spectrum as we possibly can. Instead of planting our plants directly in the soil of the Willamette Valley, we try to cultivate a soil that we can put in our pots in an indoor cultivation setting that replicates that magic of the terroir of our area, where all of the nutrients and all the minerals and all the magic and biology that we can curate in our soil piles ends up in these pots, ends up in our rooms, and ends up in the flavor of the flower. All right, guys, so the main takeaways for today are this. You can grow in a lot of different medium. They're all viable options, hydroponic, cocoa, whatever the case may be. Our vote for flavor and for that real is soil. We've been loyal to the soil forever, and it is where our cultivation practice continues to live. If you're looking for a simple off-the-shelf solution, Bio365 is a phenomenal product. If you have the ability to source bulk soil in your area, find a reputable vendor, get some of their soil, get it soil tested. Logan Labs can take care of that for you for 65 bucks. And then you can continue to actually curate that soil and to really find that terroir, to find that flavor in your soil. That's the tip of the day. Until then, we'll see you on the next video.